So here's where we're at. This is about power. You've already seen power demonstrated. You saw power in the blueberry teacher. You did. It would have been very easy for her to say nothing. And I don't want to be a scold, but too often you say nothing. You let some idiot, most likely your brother-in-law, trash talk you, what you do, public education, how you got to run it like a business. If we privatized it all, it would work. And rather than cause family discord, you bite your tongue. It was hard for her to stand up. Think about it. I loomed over her on this stage. I'm all suited up. At that point in space and time, I represented the political and business establishment of the entire state. She stood up and she spoke the truth, and I was different. She exercised her power. That superintendent, in a sneaky, mean way, exercised her power by making a leap of faith. Nobody can spend a day. As a matter of fact, I have my own mantra now. When I hear anybody criticizing public education, I know that nobody is qualified, no matter what your position in life is. You are not qualified to criticize you and what you do unless you spent a warm Friday afternoon in a room locked up with 8th graders. You are not qualified unless you've had that experience. And let me tell you, while everybody's just filing in, and now I'm going to get back to you. So, I'm at a barbecue this summer, and it's at my neighbor's house. His name is Joey. Joey's made a lot of money, jerk. But Joey never fails to take the opportunity to give me a hard time about what I do. So he's grilling on his $92,000 grill. And he says to me, "Hey, you still doing that public education defense there, James?" And I don't even know why I thought of it. I said, "You know, Joe, I got to ask you a question. When's the last time you pulled into your parking lot?" He owns the company. "You pulled into the parking lot, your special reserved parking lot. You got out, you walked into the building, you got down at your desk, and before you started your day's activity, you had to plan your entire schedule to make sure you would have an opportunity to pee." When was the last time you ever did that, Joey? So, we're talking about power, and now I've got you how I got here and shown you that power works. I was a very strong, high-profile critic. And people said, "Let me show you how it really is in here." So power works, but now we're at this point where all of a sudden we see all these people moving away, quantifiable signs that the public is moving away from public schools. Why? Why? Come on. Somebody must have had an idea. I've already heard one, but what do you got? Why is the public turning away? All right, so you're going to have to do me a favor. I know it's going to intimidate the hell out of you. If you don't stand up, I won't hear you in this room. So say it again. Okay. The parents and significant others don't think it's important. Well, there's generations of that. Lots of people think, why do I need to get an education? Why is this important at all? This is especially true in populations where poverty has existed, joblessness has existed for generations. They don't think it's important. Now, you might argue that they can look around their world and say it's not. I would argue, in response, even the world they knew is changing so quickly that if their kids are not prepared to succeed in a very challenging global society and global economy, then they're going to be left behind and they will have nothing. So, but it's totally legitimate. Parents don't think it's important. And if you don't have the parent on your side, it's tough. What's another reason why? Yes, sir, stand up.
Internet, media, and technology.
All right. So he said the internet and the media. Now, I'm going to make an assumption. What he meant was that the media, when it comes to public education, is maybe, possibly, perhaps a tad negative. Why? Why is the media negative? It sells. It sells. Now I'm going to ask you all to be grown-ups. Why does it sell? Yes, we like it. We like it. Come on, fess up. I know from the little reading I did, there were German Creoles down here. Anybody know what Schadenfreude means? Anybody? Enjoyment in the misery of others. That's right. We like it when it's negative. I had a teacher in Seattle say, "Oh, I know I like that negative news. Makes me feel better about my life. At least I'm not on fire underneath that car." This is important, ladies and gentlemen. This is very important, because here I am, some guy breezing in and out of your life from out of town saying you have power, and as the gentleman said, the media, social networks, they're killing us right now while you're in this room, while you are effectively working. There's some old guy sitting around in his drawers in front of his Facebook page lying about you. But what does it mean? The media will not change. If it's driven by the customers, the media is not a charity, it's a profit-making deal. And if we constantly show them that we like it bloody, that's what they're going to print. Bleeds and leads. So unless human nature changes, we're going to get more of the same, which means we're going to have to get around the media. We're going to have to get around them. We're going to have a conversation with our family, friends, neighbors, acquaintances, elected officials. We're going to have a conversation that helps them understand what's going on inside these buildings. We are going to have to go to the community. That's the only way this is going to work. The media is going to keep doing what it's going to do. Never ignore the media, always make sure they're in the loop. What's another reason? We've got parent disinterest and the media. Yes, ma'am. They're not getting their needs met. Actually, there you go, the fellow who came up to me. Yeah. There's people who feel that you're not taking care of their kid. I mean, this is part and parcel of America today, that it's switched to my needs, my needs, my needs, and you are not because you're not working hard. Again, I know, maybe I'm wrong, but I know that you're beaten up all the time. And I'm not doing that. They're not getting their needs met, if that's true. But let's assume it is. You're the parent, you can recognize the child's needs. The child's needs not being met. If you are not meeting every single child's needs, it's because Jefferson never imagined that the system would meet every child's need. The system won't let you do it. We're going to have to rethink it all, but that's the hand that you're dealt, is you're working inside of a system specifically designed to select and sort kids into two groups, those going on to college and everybody else. It's designed that way. And until we rethink that, there's going to be folks that feel their kids aren't being met, their needs aren't being met. That's the truth. The problem and the reason that we need your power, and I mean we need your power, America does, the parish does, the state does, is because you can't change it unless you have a conversation with the community. If we were going to change, I'm not suggesting this because I don't want to get your superintendent fired, but if we were going to break the stranglehold, time constant, quality, learning a variable. That's why you get a bell curve, because you're holding time constant. If you said we're going to get every single child above a certain level of proficiency, and you meant it, then you would have to change the system, because not all kids can get there in, how many days, 180 days? In 180 days, 5-6 hours a day. They can't get there. So why don't we change it? We have lots of examples where learning is a variable. Where time is a variable. I had a kid that spent 6 years in college with no end in sight. Clearly time was a variable. Scouting, if you got a kid in scouting, time is a variable. You keep going until you master something, show you can do it, you get your badge, you move on. I had two friends who wanted to become pilots after they retired. And the guy, totally focused, every class, hours in the air, boom, solos, gets his license. Took him about, 9-10 months. My wife's friend, it took her 6 years. She just kept going till she finally proved she could land the plane. And she's got her pilot's license. I'm not flying with her, but she got her pilot's license. We have examples in America where time is not a constant. But if you would dare to touch that, this man would lose his job. The town would go completely insane, because that ain't the way we do it around here. School starts here, ends here. That's the way we do it. Didn't used to be like that, by the way. For decades and decades, kids showed up after planting, and they left for harvest, and then they came back, and they worked in cooperative groups called multi-age classrooms. What a concept. For generations. But everybody in Houma, since we're here, has a mental model of the way school ought to be. And it's the school they went to. Oh, that's real school. Oh, if we could just have the schools we used to have here in the parish, everything would be okay. Or the one I get all the time is, hey, all this stuff about school reform, just give them what I got. You know why? Because it was okay for me, and it'll be okay for these kids. Well, I grew up on the streets of Philadelphia. I'm a wise guy, and I can never hold my tongue. Sir, isn't it obvious? Whatever you got, it was not okay for you. But this mental model of the way school ought to be, we won't break it unless we engage the community in a conversation to help them see what they went to maybe was okay for them is no longer okay in the 21st century. So you're right, but it's a system thing, and you can't touch the system. As a matter of fact, without going off on a tangent, my number one rule of school reform is you cannot touch a school without touching the culture of the town. Which means, if you follow that out to its logical conclusion, in order to increase student success, we have to do more than change our schools. We have to change Terrebonne Parish. And that's why it's so darn hard. For the record, my second rule of school restructuring is the farther the decision maker is from the child, the dumber the decision gets, but we don't have to talk about that right now. What's another reason why the public's turning away? Yes, go ahead. Loud.
I think that we don't promote or market our successes enough to the
Oh,
public.
okay.
And then our competition
Yeah.
racing like a parochial school.
Right. Right.
So it's changing that concept to the community about we do a good job.
Yes, thank you. She said, you don't promote yourselves enough. And you don't. I do not. I get a little nervous when I drift into the scolding territory. But you're terrible at this. You don't promote your success. And I'm here to tell you, look at me. I'm an outsider. But I've now spent hundreds of hours inside schools. I've never spent a day in school, ever, when I didn't see a miracle. It's not all hand of God through the clouds, rainbow miracle stuff. Sometimes it's small steps. But I've seen and I've seen it in schools, by the way, that are absolute palaces. Hundreds of millions of dollars school facilities where everything is gleaming and bright. And you think, well, you're supposed to see it there. I've seen it in schools that we, as the richest country on the planet Earth, should be profoundly embarrassed to exist in this country, and I've still seen those miracles. They're around you every day, and you don't talk about them. We have to talk about what we're doing right. I'm going to come back to that one. What else? Someplace farther away, sorry. Yeah.
Proliferation of mandated standardized tests is a single measure of success.
Yes. So, your superintendent said the proliferation of mandated standardized tests is the single arbiter of success of a school. A stupid-ass approach to measuring progress. But again, Mr. Martin referred to it in his opening remarks. Because we've sort of institutionalized this dumb way of measuring progress, Americans love box scores. We love them. So that I listen with great interest. And again, I applaud you. You're doing a great job at what you're being asked to do. But I guarantee you, when those test results come out, the people in this parish open up their papers, they look down and they go, yes, we beat New Orleans. Yes, we beat whatever your major football rival is. It's a box score that they can hang on and think that it means something even though everybody in this room knows it's empty numbers. But you're right, that's a problem. So, wait, somebody else had a hand up. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. You have to stand. Stand up. Yes. 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 All right, so those are two separate things. Thank you very much. She said there's all sorts of alternatives. And there are. You got your private schools, which we've always had. You've got your charter schools, which are relatively new. You got your virtual schools. I got a friend who's, I'm running out of time, but I have a friend who's a superintendent in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They get a ton of lake effect snow because they're close to the lake. And he called me this January. He knows who I am, and we're friends. And he said, I just thought you'd like to know, we're closed today because of snow. I said, well, Mike, thanks, but that's not a huge surprise now, is he? He goes, yeah, but the entire state of Michigan, their virtual academy is closed as well. Laptops freeze. You got all these different choices. And tying it back to this comment, everybody does a better job of promoting themselves than you do. So if you have that number where 77% of the taxpayers don't have kids in school, and they have other people saying that they're better than you are, what are those folks going to believe if you don't stand up? They're going to believe something else is better. Plus, we have a predisposition to think that the private sector does a better job. Spend any time looking at the rate of failure in businesses in this country, and that illusion goes away pretty quickly. But she mentioned another thing. Not only are all these alternatives, and if you convince the public that they're just as good as you are, why should they pay for you? But then she said something else. She said that some parents don't want their little Mary going to school with little Johnny. Now, this is a different thing, and it is a powerful, powerful force in American life. We have the great clanning of America going on. Everybody, my parents sent me to Watson Comley Elementary School, a public school, back in the day. And my mom wanted me to learn to read and write and learn things, but she also wanted me to become an American. That was part and parcel of the deal. And so I show up, like Johnny and Mary. I show up, little Jamie Vollmer. I'm kind of a mongrel kid. My mom is Italian, my dad, who really knows? And so there I am, but I am surrounded by purebloods. There's Joey O'Hara. I could hardly understand Mrs. O'Hara. She was right off the boat from Dublin. There's Johnny Schmidt, the German, in front of me. Here's Dieter Koletsky, the Pole, sitting next to me. And behind me, oh dear Lord, Lois Mariani. Those big brown Italian eyes still haunt my dreams 60-some years later. I wonder where she is. We were there to be melted. That was part of the deal. We were the great melting pot. There was a Broadway song, melt us, oh say can you see, we're ready to be Americans. What if nobody wants to be melted? What if, just as you said, ma'am, all these parents are out there saying, I don't want my kid to be with them. I want my kid to be with us. And there's all kinds of thems. There's racial thems, ethnic thems, religious thems, economic thems, and today there's political thems, which is creepy. We don't want to be with them. It is baked into who you are that you take them all. God bless you. And you help them become Americans. The clanning of America is an issue. So, what else? I'll take one more. I don't want to run out of time. One. Where? I hear him. Yes, stand up. Yes. They're worried about safety. And you know what? I don't even have kids in this system, and I'm worried about safety. That's real. And you know what? There is not a single place in this parish that is safer than a public school. Not one place. All the evidence is crystal clear that kids are way more at risk. You look back at some of the most horrific, not so recent because we don't have enough time to reflect, but I mean, for example, the sort of poster child for these horrible events in Columbine. There 33 people died at Columbine. That was horrible. Horrible. I had kids in school then. I mean, that froze me to my bones. 33 kids. That year, 1999, 2,758 school-aged children were murdered in their living rooms. Public schools are safe. And the fact that there are horrific, shocking acts of violence, while it chills us to the bone, does not change the fact that your kid is safer in a school than in a convenience store parking lot, in a public playground, in their living rooms. But I learned a long time ago that perception sometimes is more important than reality. And the perception is you're not safe, and it chills them. And so they say, let's move. What are we going to do? These are serious issues. Now, it's right here that I wish I were smarter. You may say, oh, he's being falsely modest. Trust me, my wife would tell you I don't have that quality. I do. I wish I were smarter. I wish right now I could take to the board and your administrator this 15-part plan that would somehow magically, with DVDs and streaming content, although hold the bookmark there for a minute, be able to deliver something that would change the people of the parish overnight. I don't have that. All I have is you. All I have is your power. All I can recommend is that you take 5 steps. 5. The first step, I call this the 5 S's. The first step, S number 1. You all ready? Stop. Stop bad-mouthing one another in your schools in public. This is unbelievably corrosive. The teacher who stands in the checkout line, ripping another teacher or her principal, or worse, a kid, spreads her negativity through that grocery store like a virus, and everybody who hears her catches it. And we're just human beings. What do? We repeat it. We tell other people what we just heard. This is a terrible, terrible habit. Now, I know what you do is hard. Y'all ought to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed right now because March is coming. And you're going to get overwhelmed by it all. America's asking you to do too much. And then you will have had a hard day at school, and then you'll come home and you'll find some idiot on television or the radio lying about you. Sometimes you're going to want to gripe. Fine, you have my permission. Go ahead, gripe. But gripe to your spouse. That's why we have them. Stop the trash talk in public. The second S, shift your attention from the negative to the positive. And thanks. I love saying this right now because you can start fresh. Just shift your attention. Not looking at the negative stuff, looking at all the positive things that are going on inside your classroom, hallway, building, district. Just shift your attention. I didn't add anything to your burden. It's a little behavior modification. You just begin to shift. And if you shift, you get benefits. We now know that when you focus on the negative, you weaken your immune system. I don't know how that works, but neuroscience says if you're constantly focused on the negative in your life, you compromise your immune system. You literally open your body to sickness and disease. Conversely, if you focus on the positive, your immune system strengthens and you feel better about yourself. Your interpersonal relationships improve. You like yourself more. All it is a shift. It doesn't add anything. And if you can't do it by yourself, if you've been kind of negative for a long time, find a buddy. Find a little positivity buddy. And when you start going one way, they'll say, no, no, no. Don't look there. Look over here. And high school people, where are you? High school people? Yeah. If you have trouble finding that buddy in your building, look in the elementary school. They're everywhere. Stop, shift, for heaven's sakes, share something positive. Share something positive. Help the community understand what's going on. Make a concerted effort. How can I help my neighbors understand what's going on? One way is to read Jamie's magic list. I have been creating this list for 25 years. This is a list of every single mandate that's been dumped on your doorstep to fix. Almost nobody in your community knows this. We start in 19. They're sitting at a coffee shop this morning. Oh, if they just taught those kids the basics, everything would be okay. Just teach them the basics. It's been decades since the people of Louisiana asked you to teach the basics. They started in 1900. They add lessons in hygiene, courses in nutrition. We start immunizing kids at school. We start screening for vision, hearing, and dental problems. 100 years ago, we gradually start turning school into hospital, and that has only accelerated. I sat next to a school nurse in Cleveland at the end of last year. She told me she administers 47 insulin shots a week. Had 240 kids in her middle school. From 1910 to 1940, we had vocational education, industrial arts, ag ed, domestic science, phys ed's expanded. School transportation is mandated. For generations in this parish, kids had to get to school on their own. Now you gotta go fetch them. In the 40s, business education, typing, shorthand, bookkeeping, music and arts expanded, speech and drama, half-day kindergartens, school lunch programs. Now we got to feed them. In the 50s, science and math are strengthened, foreign language requirements are strengthened, driver's ed is offered, something called sex education is introduced. Kind of wonder how we made it as a species prior to the 50s. In the 60s, Head Start, bilingual education, advanced placement programs, adult education, career education, peace and recreation education. God bless those 60s. 70s, special education, drug and alcohol abuse education, parenting education, African American studies, women's studies, tag programs, alternative education, character education, school breakfast. Now we feed them twice. Do y'all send backpacks home on the weekends? I've been in school districts where they send home, the district sends home 20,000 backpacks every weekend with enough food for a family of 4 because they know that's the only food those kids will get. And those districts are not far from you. I can't read all this. We got the 80s, we got the 90s, we've got the 2000s, starting with No Child Left Behind, not that that was disruptive. Bullying prevention, elevator and escalator safety instruction, body mass index evaluation, eating disorders, suicide awareness, steroid abuse, date rape, internet safety, organ donor awareness, texting and social media etiquette, opiate addiction, cyberbullying, anger management. Not 1 minute has been added to the school calendar. What does this list say? Used to say, teach my child. Not anymore, raise my kid. That's what this says. Yeah, I appreciate the applause, but none of your neighbors know this. And when you show them, don't let them get away with, oh, that's unions did this to our schools. No, unions fought most of these line items. Or the other thing I hear is, oh no, that's liberals did this. There are no liberals in Louisiana. It cannot possibly have been liberals. I think this list should be on every refrigerator door in America. They need to see what they, through their elected officials, constantly do to you. That we've shifted the responsibility away from families and communities onto the schoolhouse door for tens and tens and tens of thousands of kids. But if they don't know it, why would they rally to your aid? If they're all locked in this mindset that it is the way it used to be, why are they going to step up? You have the power to tell them. Stop, shift, share. The 4th S is sustain. Once you begin this process, just keep it up. And the final S is start. Start today. Again, I didn't add a single thing to this list. I'm asking for just a little tiny behavior modification. That's all it is. In the course of your normal routines. You don't have to go out of your way. You don't have to hold a sign out on I-10. It's just talking with your neighbors and helping them see what you're doing right and what the challenges are, not in a whiny way. Just tell them. Now's the time. Because despite all the things you've brought up, which are all powerful, macroscopic social and economic trends, despite all of that, this is an amazing time for public education. It has always been the moral thing to do to educate a child. That is written into the Constitution of the universe. Educate, raise them up. It's in every single religious code. It's the moral thing to do. If I had any doubt about it, I was reminded the night my son was born. It had been a long day of labor. I was exhausted. I was just, hurry up, honey. We had meticulously planned a home birth with midwives. That flew out the window when a complication all of a sudden arose that was not anticipated. I live an hour from a hospital. There's a mad dash to the University of Iowa Hospital. It's 2:30 in the morning, and I'm standing under the bright arc lights of the operating room watching that man perform a C-section on my wife. Why was I there? Because he asked me in front of her if I wanted to watch. What was I going to say? No. Come fetch me in the bar when it's over. So there I am, this is true, traumatized. I ain't never seen nothing like this before. The doctor was a genius. There's no sarcasm in that. I will be in that man's debt for the rest of my life. Calm, quiet, competent. All of a sudden, he just put down his tools. I almost missed it. He put down his tools quietly. He just made a slight deft move, and he pulled out my boy. And he was perfect. Perfect. Little wispy curls, my mother's eyes staring right back at me. And in that moment, I heard a message. No one will ever talk me out of this. I heard a message from God. It wasn't verbal, it was visceral. It went through me like a wave. Here's your child. Your job now is to help this boy unfold all the talent, all the potential I have sent him into the world to enjoy. That has been the moral imperative for every child ever born in this parish, and we've never done it. We've done it for some. We've done it for the easy ones. We've done it for the ones that fit Jefferson's system. We didn't do it for everybody. Why? We're good people. I already told you, we didn't need them. Johnny was going to do okay in every single previous generation. I'm asking you to think, if nothing else from today, about these 5 S's at a time when the moral thing to do, raise them up, and the practical thing to do are the same thing. That has never been true before in this country. We need them all. No more throwaway kids. Not because it's nice, it's necessary. We need them. We need them all to unfold whatever potential they've come into the world with. We need it. I don't believe God creates a system where he has spare parts that are not needed. I think every single child born has something to offer all of us. But that's never been true, and now it is. And there's tremendous energy running through this moment. We have 2 choices if we fail them. If we let kids exit this system, our first choice, A, is that we take care of them for the rest of our lives. One way or another, the bill comes to us. Whether it's somehow getting assistance or they're going to prison, we get the bill. How dumb is that? Because the bill is way higher than it would have taken to educate them properly when they were young. That's choice number 1. If we let them get out the system and they're not prepared, choice number 2 is we live in fear of them for the rest of our lives. Because in the 21st century, a poorly educated young person is desperate, and a desperate person is dangerous. We need all of them for the first time ever. And I'm telling you something, with this energy, with this many people concentrated inside one parish, if you stand up, if you exercise your power, if you help the community build a broad coalition that looks at the community and says, how can we remove the obstacles to student achievement? If you come together and exercise your power, you begin to remove those obstacles. And when you do that, you not only create the schools of your dreams, you create the community of your dreams. This is a magical time in America, and if you stand up now and exercise your power, this is public education's most hopeful time. Thank you so much for sitting through this, and have a wonderful year. Thank you. Thanks a lot.